Yo, what's good YouTube? I am back with another reaction video, and we got the golden age of basketball. The golden age of basketball. Let's get into this video, y'all. Let's see what it's hitting for. I seen they had Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, and Larry Bird on the front, so let's see what this video is talking about.
That's my best friend. That's my best friend.
What's up guys, welcome back to the channel, and today I'm going to be talking about the golden age of the NBA. And I'm going to tell you up front, it's from 1984 to 1993. In this video, I'm going to show you what led up to the golden age, what initiated the golden age, and what players were able to keep the golden age going until 1993. I'm also going to highlight why it ended in 1993, and some of you might already know that, but I'm going to go over that also. So, starting in 1979, there was one key game and one key matchup that kind of kicked off the start of this era, or the events that would lead up to the era. And that was the NCAA championship game between Indiana State and Michigan State. And this was the first matchup of Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. And as we'll come to see, this matchup was super important for the NBA growing. And starting in 1980 with their rookie seasons, Magic Johnson, he was able to win Finals MVP and be an NBA champion. Larry Bird was the Rookie of the Year, and he blew out Magic Johnson. And this was the start of what many consider the modern era of basketball. And as you'll see, from the next few years, it'll build to the golden age. So I just want to say a few key events that happened. First off, Magic and Bird, they ended up meeting in the NBA Finals in 1984. And what also helped is David Stern became the commissioner in 1984. And he also found out how to market Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. And this is very important because before they arrived in the NBA, it was perceived that the league was cocaine-ridden, and it was just drugs everywhere, and it's a predominantly black league, and it was a majority white audience in America that turned off a lot of people. And they needed a rivalry that would capture the minds of the fans and get people interested in the game of basketball. So, as I said before, Magic and Bird met in the 1984 Finals, and this matchup was huge for the NBA advancing, and it did go 7 games, which is very important, because if the game was a sweep, or if it was a lopsided series, the NBA may not have progressed as fast, and the golden era might not have started in 1984. But nonetheless, the Boston Celtics did win that championship, and that would lead up to the 1985 Finals. They would meet up again against the Los Angeles Lakers and Magic Johnson. And this is a perfect scenario. They're starting to build a rivalry for what will define the 80s. And if you're gonna write the script, you would have the Celtics winning one year and the Lakers winning the other next year. So that's exactly what happened in 1984 and 85. The Lakers ended up beating the Celtics after losing to the Celtics, making it 1-1 head-to-head matchup. So in 1986, another key event is the NBA Finals got off tape delay and they finally aired live. Now this was very big and huge when it comes to marketing the NBA, and NBC and CBS, they would be the sponsors of the league for the 80s and 90s, and this did kick off in the 1986 season with the NBA Finals not being on tape delay, because as in previous finals, you would have to stay up to like 11 o'clock on the East Coast to even watch the start of the game, which is just ridiculous, and sometimes you'd even find out who won the championship before it even started, before you even saw it. So it was just kind of a hectic, and it wasn't really an organized league. They didn't have the money backing it. That all changed in 1986 when they got the rights to air the finals live. So I kind of skipped over this, but in 1984, we had a draft class that featured 4 Hall of Famers, and more specifically, it featured Michael Jeffrey Jordan. And this would be the young, up-and-coming player the NBA needed to skyrocket for young audiences. We already had the marquee matchup of Bird and Magic, but you were missing that young key player who would encapsulate the minds of all the younger fans. And Michael Jordan was that guy from day one. And also they had John Stockton, Hakeem Olajuwon, and Charles Barkley, who would help carry the league on in the 90s and even in the late 80s. So that 84 draft class is really a key event in what makes this the golden age of basketball, and how the NBA would keep growing and keep becoming a global organization. And with the introduction of Michael Jordan to the NBA, we also had the introduction of his signature shoe. And Larry Bird and Magic Johnson, they also had the Converse weapons, and that really was the first signature shoe, and that really gives a pinpoint on when marketing and merchandise sales started becoming big for the NBA. I know some historians will say Dr. J started it with his Converse shoe, but I wouldn't really say the Dr. J shoe was a signature shoe that everyone wanted. The Converse weapon and Air Jordan 1, that was really the first shoe people really wanted.
I'm not gonna lie though, back when Jordan had some nice sneaks, man. I think Jordan had some of the best looking sneaks. I never really looked at any other sneaks, but I think Jordan had some of the best looking sneaks though.
So, as I said, with the introduction of Michael Jordan, you had the young star. But Larry Bird and Magic Johnson, they were still competing for the championships. And in '86, Larry Bird would beat the Houston Rockets, who knocked out the Lakers surprisingly in the first round. And it did set up the '87 finals, where the Celtics played the Lakers again. And the Lakers would end up beating the Celtics. And from that point on, the NBA just started skyrocketing. And then you introduced the Bad Boy Pistons. And every good storyline needs a bad guy. And the Bad Boy Pistons were just that. And they would actually end the Boston Celtics dynasty by beating them in 1989. They also would have a reign of terror over Michael Jordan and the Bulls. And the Bulls have to overcome that later in the decade. But just focusing on the Pistons real quick, they are really an underrated kind of dynasty or a great all-time team. They aren't really talked about. They get lost in the shuffle. You can say the same with the 76ers in the early 80s, because only people remember is the Boston Celtics and Los Angeles Lakers. They don't remember the Bad Boy Pistons, who brought in the rough defense. I mean, 80s defense I think is a little overrated, but the Pistons, that's not overrated defense. It wasn't even really basketball. They were just fouling hard as you could. It was really just kind of bully ball, but the NBA did need that. They needed a villain, and the Pistons fit that role perfectly. So with the introduction of the Detroit Pistons, Boston Celtics kind of fell by the wayside, and it was really a Lakers and Pistons league for the last 3 years of the 90s. I know the Pistons did win 2 championships, and Lakers did win 1. So the Bulls, they were kind of the up-and-coming team. They weren't projected to win a championship in the 80s, but they did kind of overcome the mountain, which was the Detroit Pistons. And the Pistons had to do the same thing as the Celtics, so it's kind of history repeating itself. But as an NBA fan, as the commissioner, David Stern had a plan for Michael Jordan to overtake the Pistons and become the preeminent face of the NBA. And that's exactly what happened in 1991, as he beat the Detroit Pistons, sweeping them, and he faced off against Magic Johnson. The 1991 finals, it was kind of the last stand for the 80s, as they were going against the new era and Michael Jordan. And the Bulls and Michael Jordan, they end up beating Magic Johnson and the Lakers in a 5-game series. James Worthy was also on that team, Byron Scott, you had AC Green, Sam Perkins. So that was kind of a depleted Lakers team, but nonetheless, the Chicago Bulls took over the NBA. So that was the 1991 season, and entering the 1992 season, Michael Jordan came back-to-back champion, and that offseason is another key event which makes this the golden era of basketball. It's the 1992 Dream Team. And you cannot understate the value of the Dream Team and what they did for the NBA, making it a global game. If you think about it, pro players are not allowed to play in the Olympics. You couldn't showcase the best talent in the world, and the 92 Olympics did do that. And all the technology we have today, you take for granted. You can get it on your phone. You can look up highlights of some guy in Europe, or you can look at games from, from the 1980s. You can look up all this stuff. In 1992, that was not possible, and many players, or many people, they didn't get a glimpse of Michael Jordan or Magic Johnson or the marquee players on a daily basis. It was the time difference, and just getting the film was very hard. Kobe Bryant has a talk about this in his book, how he's saying how his uncle had to get tapes and he watched them at 4 o'clock in the morning. I mean, you had to go to some extreme lengths if you wanted to watch real NBA basketball in Europe or any other country that wasn't the United States. So the 1992 Olympics were a huge event that really signaled this era for me as the golden era of basketball. I think they just kind of encapsulate what the era was all about. It was about growing the game, and I would say Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, they saved the NBA, and they took it to a nationwide kind of scale, but Michael Jordan was able to take it to the next level and build off that success and make it a global game, and he made himself a global icon with his sneaker company that cannot be understated at all, because the Jordan brand is still the biggest brand out there. They sell the most shoes on average per year and make the most money. So the Jordan brand is still alive and well. People still go crazy for Jordan shoes. And I think the 1992 Olympics has a lasting effect today. People always talk about the Dream Team, It's just another iconic moment of the 80s. More specifically, 1984 to 1993. You just have 4 iconic franchises in the Celtics, Bulls, Lakers, and Pistons. It doesn't get any better than that, and it's not nostalgia or anything. Those are just 4 iconic franchises that happen to be great at the same time. And that really does make this a golden era of basketball, in my opinion. And all the events I listed, like Magic and Larry Bird meeting in the finals in 1984, David Stern becoming the commissioner in 1984, MJ and his other Hall of Famers getting drafted in 1984 that would lead the NBA on to the 90s, the NBA not being on tape delay in the 1986 finals, and lastly, the Team USA basketball. So that's kind of the 5 key major events that helped propel the NBA in the golden era of basketball. And I do stand by that and say, maybe it's not the most talented era, maybe it's not the most skilled era, but you can't sit here and tell me it's not the most iconic era, and it's not the era where the NBA evolved and became the NBA that you know today. And this gets me back to why the golden era ended in 1993. It's because Michael Jordan retired, and from 94 to 98, even to 2004, the game was just super physical. It was too physical. The scoring was down so much. I mean, teams were scoring in the 90s. I mean, the perfect balance of power and balance of offense and defense, I would say, is from the 1990 season to 1993 season. From 93, after that season onward, it was just too physical, too much of a defensive focus. That's why the NBA changed in 04, and they made it more of a free-flowing league, and they had the offense actually dominating the ball and dominating the game. You couldn't really win a championship based purely off defense. You still needed a strong offense. That's why I think the 1984 to 1993 time period is the golden age of basketball. So I just like to go back over and say the golden age of basketball was from 1984 to 1993, and I stand by that opinion. I think most historians of basketball agree with me on that. And just looking at the changes the NBA went through, I mean, the tape delay is a huge thing. David Stern coming in, the rules and how free-flowing it was, but yeah, you still did have great defense and great defensive teams like the Pistons in the NBA. And just the introduction of 3 iconic stars, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, and Michael Jordan, who also all 3 did play on the Dream Team. And this is just the last thing I'm going to say. I know I'm rambling right here, but Michael Jordan actually maybe not have played on that Dream Team if Bird and Magic didn't play. He really wanted to play with the best of the best, and even though they were past their prime, Jordan really respected those guys because he knew what they did for the NBA, and he kind of wanted to show them their farewell tour. He let them be the co-caps on the team, and he took a back seat to them because he knew how much they meant to the NBA. And that's really important, to respect the previous generations. We don't have a lot of that now. I know people call plumbers in the 90s and stuff like that, but it's really important to respect each era and understand each era has something different and unique to it. So that's the end of the video. I hope it didn't go too long. I think it's like about 16 minutes right now. I'll edit it down. It's probably like 14. But I hope you enjoyed it. And just remember, the golden age of basketball is from 1984 to 1993. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.
Alright, that wraps it up, and I definitely agree with him. I really feel like that those times was a golden era, golden age, and like there really was, man. I just think so. Like it just, you could do so much. Like you, like look at them fighting and all of that. Like you can't do none of half the stuff that's going on. Like you can't do none of that stuff. Not even that. You can't do none of that stuff nowadays in the NBA. You get fined, you suspended, all kind of stuff. But yeah, I agree. What y'all think, man? Let me know in the comments. This is a good video right here. I like this one. This is a good video. Uncut Hoops, man, definitely been doing me right with some videos, man. Shout out to Uncut Hoops. Definitely gotta look for some more videos of him. But yeah, man, that's about it. Subscribe if you're new. Hit that like button. Turn on that bell, man. I'm uploading every single day. And yeah, you got some videos you want me to do, leave them down in the comments down below, or you can send them to my email at thatphillyboynah@gmail.com. And I'm out of here. And I know I said I'm under the weather. I'm still a little sick. I know y'all can hear me coughing, but I'm getting better. Just trying to do everything I can to get better. I'm about to make me some tea. And yeah, that's about it, man. On to the next video. I'm out. Love y'all. Peace.